hear the dice roar. Gaining realms of muscles drawn. Together in this place where we belong. Golden spells casting dreams until the dawn. Leveling up and the world to follow. With painted heroes shining bright. Venturing onward in the endless night. Where the brawn meets the brush. The story's told in the storm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the factors unfold. These are my soul, our soul. Where the brawn meets the brush. The story's told in the storm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the fate to fight for. Peace of my soul, our soul. Huzzah! Hello! Turn that music down a little bit. Let's do the standard. Unplug that. Welcome one, welcome all to Minis-N-Muscles. You caught me whilst I didn't realise that my theme tune was running out so quickly. I was eating a biscuit. So I do apologise. How are you? Happy Friday. Welcome one, welcome all to Minis-N-Muscles. Let's move this out of the way. The only place you need to be on a Friday, the place where the brawn meets the brush, or should I say the brawn meets the brush. Hello, how are you? Happy Friday. What's going on, world? How are we? How are we doing? I hope we're all good. Let's take a sip of my water whilst I'm here. It is Friday. We finally made it. It is the weekend for the majority of us, not for all of us, but for most of us. So some of us are American viewers. It won't be the weekend for them just yet. Well, I've just realised it's looking rather dark on my face. I haven't turned on the light behind me, so let's just turn that on, because otherwise it looks really dark. There we go, that's a bit better. Oh, get the seat right. Ah, there we are. So I hope you're well. I hope you've had a wonderful week. Did you have much geekery this week? What's been going on? So before we get into today's show, let's just have a quick catch up and let's go through the agenda itself. So this week we are going to, as usual, we have 3 parts, not 6 but 3. 3 parts to Minis-N-Muscles. Those 3 parts are made up of our general chit-chat. Our general chit-chat for this week is going to be Warhammer, the sort of Warhammer grimdark world versus reality. So we'll have a few sort of talking points around that, and so anything to do with Warhammer really and the grimdark world versus reality. We'll chat about that today. That's our general chat. So for those of you new here, in the chat stream, in the stream chat, sorry, feel free to jump on in there, say hello, and just stick in chat whatever you want about anything geeky. But today's topic is the grimdark world of Warhammer versus reality, that is. As our muscle moment, we wouldn't be at Minis-N-Muscles if we didn't talk about a little bit of fitness. During about halfway through the show, we have 5 minutes worth of fitness, and today's topic is training gadgets, namely watches. So I wanted to think about some sort of training gadgets you can use, and I sort of narrowed it down to watches, and that's what I was going to talk about today to see what might be helpful for you guys. And then we got our hobby horror moment, so the 3rd section of our show. The hobby horror moment is, when is enough enough? So we will go into my hobby horror moment of when is enough enough. I will reveal all in that section. That's normally around 20 to 9 or so we get to that feature. But welcome one, welcome all. How are you? How's your week been? If you've had a good geeky week, drop it in the chat. Tell me how things have been. Say hello, for goodness sake. Don't just sit there quiet. Tell me how your week's been, and I shall tell you how mine's been. Since our last live, ooh, crikey, that was a week ago, so that's ages away. I've played a game of Warhammer. I teamed up with my buddy, so it was me with my Sisters of Battle versus and my buddy who was playing Necrons versus, and we had 1,000 points each, versus Chaos Knights. And the Sisters of Battle and the Necrons were victorious! Hurrah! So that's another win for the Sisters. So they're doing quite well on wins at the moment, so I'm very happy about that. So that's good. What else did I do? Oh, I also visited a Pokemon trading event at the weekend. Was it the weekend? No, this week, during the week. So I took a load of my swap Pokemon, my duplicates, along with me to a Pokemon trading event and swapped a few with some few different people. I gave some cards away as well. Some of the cards that are just, you know, not worth anything to me in terms of trade value, but actually if it's going to bring someone joy, then bring someone joy. So I gave a load of cards out to kids that were there. There was a lot of young kids asking the sort of more older Pokemon collectors like myself, have you got any free cards? Have you got any free cards? So I gave like loads of stacks out to people. So I thought that was just a nice gesture to do, right? So that was another part of my week. Have I played any gaming this week? Yeah, I did play a little bit of Fortnite this week. I haven't played any World of Warcraft. I do want to get back into Space Marine 2 though. I do want to get back into that game. So I've just had an update. And there's been loads of cool things that have come out of the update. So I want to get back into Space Marine 2. That would be cool. Painting wise, I am painting more. I'm painting another army at the moment. I do need to still finish some of my Sister Battle. I do need to still finish some of my Ultramarines. And I've just started another army. God. It gets bad, right? And that kind of leads into my hobby horror moment. When is enough enough? But yeah, so I'm doing that at the moment. And I was actually doing a base, which is really cool. On this model, actually. Let's just switch over to top-down cam. I was just experimenting with some resin. So there's like this little pipe here that comes out, and then you've got all the resin that's coming out here, which is sort of stained snot green. So yeah, that was a good one. So I did that this week. And what else? Anything else geeky? I don't think so. I think it's been pretty chill for the rest of the geeky stuff this week. Let's turn the music down a little bit. It's a little bit loud, isn't it? So yeah. Anything else geeky? No, I don't think so. I think that's my geeky week. So Warhammer, Pokemon trading, a lot of painting, and a little bit of gaming at the same time. All right, so that is my week. Hopefully yours has been on a similar path, a similar trajectory, and you've managed to sneak in some geekery, whether that is reading a Harry Potter book or whether that is, playing Warhammer for the very first time. Whatever that is, hopefully you managed to do something. Fingers crossed. So, we will continue this week on painting our models. So this is the model, this teeny tiny little model here, that way, that we started painting. Let's bring him up to the camera. We started putting some base colours into him last week. So this is the guy. He's a D&D character. I should have Googled him, actually. I might do that whilst we're doing the show. But he's a sort of skeleton sorcerer type individual. So that was what was chosen by you, by the viewers last week in our poll for what model we will paint next. And we started putting some base coats on. This week, hopefully, we will get some highlights and some shading done on him and finish him off, hopefully, today. I think we can do. I don't think it will be much more of an effort to get him done. There's not a huge amount on this model to do, so hopefully we'll get that done. Then I've sort of pre-piled a load of minis over this side to paint and to put into a poll to see what is next. So aside from that, I think that's about it for our introduction. Welcome. If it's your first timer, welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on notifications. Hit the like button as well for me. That absolutely helps out. I know everybody asks it in all their videos, but it helps out someone like me. Don't worry about liking Mr. Beast's videos, like my video, that would really help. But apart from that, let's crack on. So let's go down to our top-down view. Let's bring our little guy into view. I'm just going to move this slightly just so it's not in the camera. Yeah, so we're just going to continue to paint this guy. I have to admit, I forgot that we were painting this guy completely. When I was trying to find the model, when I was setting up for today, I was like, what model was I even painting? I can't remember. So we started doing this guy last week. And there's some little bits of detail like across this shoulder piece here. But there's nothing too drastic, nothing too difficult. But I think we can highlight quite a lot of the cool stuff on here. So let's get crack-a-lacking, I think. Where should we start? Well, let's think. We need to get some bands or cloth around this skull's head to tie him to the branch. There's a couple of little bits that are on the branch there as well. So hopefully you've got your water ready. So make sure you've got your clean water. Yes, that's clean. It's just my jar that's dirty. And fingers crossed you've got your wet palette or your paints ready. My wet palette is nice and clean. I also am using 2 new brushes. So yeah, let's see how these go. See if I like these or not. We'll come to a verdict by the end of the show. So what we're looking at here, I reckon for the face we're probably just going to use some shade paints purely because he's a skeleton, right? So it's not like he's got lots of detail that we need to do. We'll probably drop some shade in here, some shade across those antlers as well, whatever you want to call them. Might need to finish off this chain a bit. Whatever that little bit is on the bottom, it looks like something off the bottom of the chain. It goes underneath that twig. Got his hand just sticking out there, so we need to put some bone on that. And then that's about it. And then we're going to start putting some highlight colours on in purple, so some lighter purples across the top. And then that should be. Oh, he's got one hand there that needs doing. And we've got obviously the little bits up this end, so we've got this sort of bandage thing that goes round the skull. So maybe we should do that first whilst I sit there licking my paintbrush. It is clean, don't worry. Let's have a look. Oh my, that's weird. That kept cutting out there. That's not good. Hopefully that doesn't keep doing that because this is a new video card. So I'm just mixing up some paint right now. I'm going to go with a bit of a darker kind of dirty kind of vibe for the bandage around the skull's head. So we'll go with some Morghast bone. Let's find a little bit of that, stick it into our wet palette, and let's get going. I might actually stick on the geek glasses as well, just to help out. So our talking points this week is all about the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40,000 versus reality. So what do I mean by that as a topic to chat about? Well, I kind of like to live in a bit of a fantasy world in even when we're living in real life, because it's kind of interesting, or a bit more interesting and a bit less depressing, surprisingly, than real life. So I thought, oh well, I like Warhammer as a topic anyway. Why don't we sort of relate Warhammer to the real world and mix the two together and have a little chat about that? So it could be, you know, absolutely anything that you want to chat about Warhammer where we can relate it to the real world. So I've got a load of topics here as usual that I will talk about and I will go over. But if you want to chat about something, you are more than welcome. So drop it into the chat. We can start having a little waffle about that, which would be good. Whilst we paint minis. Hopefully you're doing some mini painting this week as well. Hopefully you guys have got some minis on the go. And it's not just me that's painting stuff. So far, what do I think of this paintbrush though? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure I like the shape of the bristles, to be fair. I mean, we'll find. Hopefully it will sort itself out, but the shape of the bristles don't seem to be particularly pointy. And that is what I was hoping for. The better the point on your bristles, the easier it is to manipulate the paint around the Mini. Whereas when they're not quite pointed so well, it makes it bloody difficult to actually get a good line when you're painting. So hopefully this brush will sort itself out a bit. Got any chat coming in? No chat at the moment. Everyone's a bit shy, but don't worry. Just trying to work. Oh no, I've just broken his bloody horn again. I'm just going to put that down there. I broke that last week and glued it back on, but it's just a really fiddly little bit. And once you break part of these models, these WizKid ones, they don't like to glue back together much. So what is that top part? Is that... I'm trying to work out what that bit is at the top. I think it's a mix of branch and bandage. So we'll have to go with that. Need a little bit more of this Morghast bone in our wet palette. Yeah, so our topic of the day, Warhammer the Grimdark Universe versus reality. So I was sort of thinking about different topics to chat about this, right? Because you can really go into some interesting vibes. And the first one I thought was the Imperium of Man versus real empires, right? So in the Warhammer world, the Imperium of Man is run by the God Emperor. And he's the sort of head honcho that everyone sort of bows down and worships, and everyone does what he says, and they sort of go around and they're trying to cleanse the universe of all of these weird alien races that they don't like and they don't approve because they don't worship the God Emperor, right? So that's your Space Marines, your Sisters of Battle, all of those sort of people. They go around and do all that sort of stuff. Now, it's a bit like real empires, right, that go round, especially not now, but especially olden empires, I guess, that went round and would go round and sort of invade different countries and attack them because, you know, they didn't believe in the same thing they believed in and all the rest of it. So there's quite a few similarities. And I kind of found that throughout. Like, as I started learning little bits of lore, I'm not a lore expert in Warhammer by any means of the imagination, but as I was starting to learn a little bit more and a little bit more, I was like, oh, that's quite like real life. Oh, that's quite like real life. You know, like, let's use Sisters of Battle, for example. Everyone refers to them as nuns with guns, and they're the sort of religious ladies of the world, and they are exactly that, you know, nuns with guns. They follow the God Emperor and they sort of worship him, and they do all of that, but they do all their praying as well, and they have that really strong impervious belief in the God Emperor and what he does for them as individuals. So he empowers them to do all these good things, right? Which is kind of like real life, just like the Black Templars, for example. The Black Templars are a chapter of Space Marines, and they really like the Knights Templar that actually happened in real life, the ones that went round crusading all over the place. You know, whether it's in Malta or whether it's elsewhere. You know, the Knights Templar actually existed. So there's quite a few similarities, I thought, on... and maybe that's where Warhammer draws its inspiration from. Maybe that's where the writers sort of pick things from. And they're like, oh yeah, we like that part of history, so we'll include that. I've just realised I've got no bloody paper towel. Gosh darn it. Alright, bear with me 2 seconds. Just need to grab a paper towel whilst I chat away. I'm going to have to go behind the screen behind me and grab some. But I'm still here, don't worry. I'll come back out. As if by magic, I've got my towel, paper towel. Never forget to be prepared. There's always something I always forget. So there's a couple of you online. I hope you're all good. Tell me about your week. Tell me how it's been. Hopefully it has been a good one. Let's get those geek glasses on again just so I can see exactly what I'm trying to see. I'm going to go for a brown now because I've just noticed there's a section of this staff that we've missed. So we need to do that. We've just sort of, at the moment, just done those little stripes around the skull and around the staff. Just to put those bandages in place so that skull doesn't fall off. We wouldn't want to lose our skull, would we? Yeah, so the sort of bureaucracy and the authority that the Imperium of Man impose on the galaxy that they live in is it a little bit like what the Romans did, I guess, all them years ago, where they went around and they just ensured that everyone complied, basically, which is what the Space Marines do. So I think there's quite a good similarity there. I don't know what you guys think, but when I was kind of writing my notes, I'm like, oh yeah, that is very much like what they did back then. I mean, it's just different names, isn't it? But for the Warhammer world, that is. There we go. So that little tip of the staff. Got a little bit of overspill there as well, so let's mop that. So far, I'm not impressed by this. There's one little bristle on this brush that is out of place, and it ruins the whole brush. If you get one bristle that sort of is all over the shop, it makes it very, very hard. My camera keeps cutting in and out, and it's driving me insane. I'm so sorry. It must be driving you guys insane. So I apologise profusely. We might have to unplug and plug back in. Bear with. We can't have that flashing in on and off, on and off, on and off, can we? Gosh. Right, so we have to pause for a second. We might have to pause for a second just so we can fix this bloody camera. I don't know why I've had so much problems with this recently. It's very frustrating. Hello, Elias. How are you, sir? I hope you're well. How are your Black Templars going? So Elias dropped into the Discord the other day, and he was telling us all about his Black Templars that he's painting. How's it going? Hopefully everyone that's online, I can see quite a few of you there, you're painting something as well. Bear with me whilst I fix my camera, okay? I'm just going to fix my camera. Hopefully it will be fixed and it will work. I'm just going to unplug things and plug things back in. That generally does it, right? That's what we tell ourselves anyway. Just unplug it, plug it back in, and it will be fine. So that's what we're going to do. So fingers crossed some of you are painting. So hopefully that I've inspired a few of you to paint. I'm certainly no Picasso, but I'm hoping that I do a good enough job that inspires a few of you to paint. Hopefully. There we go. Let's just drop in back in now. Here we go. Back on it. Okay, we can see what we're doing. So what else am I going to talk about? What about in the Warhammer world, you get super crazy religious types. So that could be your Black Templars or your Sisters of Battle, who are so fixated on the God Emperor, or it could be the more supposedly sinister factions of the Warhammer world, like your followers of chaos and who follow the chaos gods. Now, is that a little bit like real life, where we get in real life your sort of religious entities versus your sort of fanatical people? There are always extremists that are knocking around in the real world. Well, is Warhammer just a carbon copy of that with different names? Interesting, hey? Well, I thought so. Just noticed a little bit of purple that we're missing on the back there as well. So we'll have to crack open the purple to make sure we're covered. So on this model, it's quite a small model. It's not hyper detailed, but it's got a fair amount on there. But what's quite nice about this model, and I will say that the print quality is not great, and I have said that before about WizKid Minis, but what is quite nice is there is enough detail here on the Mini for anyone to paint. So you don't have to be an expert to start sort of painting these Minis. You can just be your average Joe Schmo, and you can start painting up and not have too much of an issue or a worry, right? And that's what I quite like about these miniatures. But back to our Warhammer Grimdark universe versus reality for our general chat. What are your guys' thoughts? What are you thinking about the Warhammer world versus reality? If the Imperium of Man was real, would you join it or would you rebel against it? There's a question. So, for those Warhammer geeks that are out there that watch him, if the Imperium of Man was real, would you join it or would you rebel against it? That's the question. Ooh, tough question. Tough question. Would you rebel? Would you join it? I'd love to know. Stick it in the chat. Just trying to mix up a little bit of Rathbone just so we can do his hands. So that's the colour we're using here. Rathbone, or Wraithbone rather. Yeah, so if the Imperium of Man was real, would you join? There's a question. What I'm going to do with this model, because it's got a lot of sort of ridges on it in terms of the detail of the Mini, and it's not something that necessarily I'm too worried about in terms of perfection. It means that I can go quite heavy with things like shade colours. So if you're just painting it like this, I'm doing with this now, painting a Mini to get it on the table so you can use it, so it can be part of a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons or part of your Warhammer army, and you just wanted it painted to get it out there. If it's got a fair amount of sort of lines and ridges on it and all the rest of it, utilise shade paints to your advantage. So don't be afraid to use a lot of it to bring all that definition of the model out. We'll cover that shortly when we when I apply that to this model. Join or heresy? Oh, so Elias is saying to my question about if the Imperium of Man was real, would you join or would you go against it? Elias is saying he would join. Okay, that's interesting. Especially, Elias, considering you collect Tyranids, which is one of the Xenos factions, right? Xenos factions being aliens, or what the Imperium of Man class as aliens. So what about some of the rest of you? If the Imperium of Man was real, would you join or would you not? What a question, hey? I wonder what half of us would do. I think, for me personally, I think I'd join. Yeah, I think I'd probably join. I quite like the idea of being a Space Marine. That would be pretty sweet. I wouldn't complain about that. So I quite like that idea. So I'd probably join. And to be fair, I probably would be a Black Templar actually. I'd probably go along that sort of Night Crusade type vibe. In the name of the good Emperor, that is. But it's not all about me. What about you guys? What would you do? Would you join up? Would you join up or would you not? I'd be really interested to see what your answers are and whether you would or not. Right in there, I don't think you can quite see it, but right in there he's got a belt on. So I am going to go for another brown colour. We're going to get a slightly lighter brown for his belt. Do we want lighter? Actually, no, we want darker, I think. Do we want this kind of brown for a belt? Will that work? Let's try it. Let's see. We can always go with a darker brown over the top. So it's not a problem. So far, these brushes, I'm not sure if I like them or not. So I've sort of left behind my old Citadel brushes and I've gone to these brushes. I'm not sure. I'm not sold just yet. I mean, they're okay, but I'm not sold just yet. So if you've got any good brush recommendations, peeps, let me know. I'd love to hear what you use. So maybe that might inspire me to go get those brushes. This is like a three sort of strap belt that goes around his waist. Just shot over on one part on the green. I've just done it again actually. It's the only thing when you're using these geek glasses, you've got to be ever so careful because you almost lose like depth perception. So it can become a little bit tricky on working out what's where. Sounds silly, but it's so true. But that's okay because we can just go back and fix the bits we've gone over, right? Remember, it's only paint. We can go back and fix it. It's only paint. So we will go back and fix those. That's only green. There you go. So there's a little belt that goes through the back. Oh, sorry, just out of camera. There's a belt that goes through the back there. You can't be a Space Marine. Why can't I be a Space Marine, Elias? Right, we're talking about here, if you've just joined the show, the grimdark world versus reality. And my question was, as part of that conversation, was if the grimdark world was real, would you join? So why can't I be a Space Marine, Elias? Tell me, huh? Don't spoil my childhood dreams now. Why can't I be a Space Marine? And don't tell me it's because I don't have two hearts. Space Marine, for those that don't know, have two hearts. Look, I'll allow Belisarius Call to do some weird experimentation and turn me into a Space Marine. I shall allow that. Happily. So I can protect the Imperium of Man from those evil do-not-do-gooders, evil do-badders the forces of chaos and the Xenos scum. I shall take them all down. I'm waiting for your answer, Elias. Don't just put a comment up there that I can't be a Space Marine and then not tell me why. You know, I need to now know. Is this an ageist thing? You're saying because I'm too old, maybe, that I can't be a Space Marine? Are you ageist, Elias? Is this what it is? Is this what we come down to? There we go. Righty. So he's got his hand there. He's got that there. Do-do-do. Right, we need that gold back, don't we? Here we go. Let's get some gold on those shoulder pads. Just need to tidy it up a little bit around some of the detail on the back of his shoulders there, just because it's not quite right. So let's try to get that right. There we go. So it's just where I went over the edges actually, with the silver. I'm just tidying that up. Again, with the geek glasses on, it makes it so much easier to be able to see that minute bit of detail. So you can sort of go back over it. What we will do again though is we'll drop some shade in there. Onto this area, because there's some little bits that will just benefit from having a little bit of Nuln Oil run across the back of it. So let's grab that now. Oh, love me, pal. How you doing, mate? Hope you're well. Hopefully you've had a good week, mate. Yeah, so we were talking about the sort of grimdark Warhammer world versus reality, and would you join if it was real? I was saying yes, I would. Elias is saying he'd join. What are the rest of you guys saying? I'm not sure. But it's either join or you've got to then join the sides of chaos, right? Or you've got to become part of the alien race. And what's that going to do for you? So all we're doing right now is taking the shade and dropping it into the recesses on the shoulder pauldrons here of this character. Just because it sort of highlights the detail. And again, even on the back ones, you can go along and drop it into the holes on there. So even where we weren't quite smart with the gold, we can just drop it across the top. And what's so good about Nuln Oil and shades in general, they just flow. So straight away you can see the difference on that. Straight away you can see the difference in the depth of what the shading looks like. And across the front as well, where there was originally none really across the top of the shoulders there. We've now got some. Absolutely perfect. Hard week. No bike? What? What's happened to your bike, pal? What happened, mate? That's not good. I thought you were getting a bike. Oh, you've got these long glasses for proper long distance ones. Mate, if you're wearing glasses like these for long distance, you've got something wrong, son. That's not good. You really don't want glasses like these, I tell you. So you can see again with the shading on this model where you've got the rathbone or wraithbone or whatever you want to call it on the face. There's tiny minute details that you might not be able to pick out with a brush and standard paint, right? But just by dropping the shade on, you can already see the face, right? Because the shade just sits in all the recesses. It's so good for models like this that don't have a huge amount of what I call paintable detail, where the detail on the model itself is pretty poor. Oh, that's a bit too much. But that's okay, you can just wick it away with your brush, put it back onto the pot. There we go. So straight away you've got a nice bit of coloration on the face and on the hands. Just makes it look a little bit better. Got some on them shoulder pads as well. Making it look nice and cool. Great for looking at a bird across the road. Don't know what you mean, mate. I don't know about these though. I don't think you'd see very far, buddy. Again, I'm just going to throw a load across the skull on this one as well, just to give it a cheaty, fast paint effect. This is to get it on the tabletop. We're not going for painting awards here. We're just going for quick and easy. So quick and easy, get your shade out. Don't necessarily put it across the whole of your model. That's where it looks just a bit odd when you've got shading across everything. But when you pick out certain things like here the face, here the skull, you know, it just starts to look it looks a lot more realistic when you do it that way, rather than doing absolutely every part of the model with a shade of some sort. I did do that once when I very first started painting. It's not awful, but it's also not great. So try to avoid it where you can. Just painting one of his horns with some Nuln Oil. Getting that on there. And I'll paint the broken one as well. I'll have to fix that later with some green stuff. So yeah, so any other comments or thoughts on joining the Imperium of Man if that was an option? If that was real life, would you join the Imperium of Man, or would you, you know, allow others to do that dirty work and you'd stay away from it? If you've got a thought, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Can you see on that skull helmet, you can't quite see, just there, look. So all I did, there was a little recess on the top of that skull and I just ran the Nuln Oil down it and it's just made it into a like fork. It's absolutely brilliant. It just brings out little tiny details that you might not always get. Perfect. That's what we want. Oh, house across the road has an aviary. Oh, okay. Oh dear. Tell you what, you're a boy, you are, mate. Just going to apply a little bit more paint to this crown, just where the first pass of the paint wasn't that thick, so you get the sort of undercoat shining through, which we don't really want, so we'll try and get rid of that and get a bit more of a thicker coat on. Sometimes when your paints are in the wet palette, they do thin a little bit too much, so you just got to get it just right. So again, be patient and you know, around getting your paints right, but just observe how they apply to the model as you go. There we are. So what was my other question? And anyway, going back to the main topic. So religion versus fanaticism. That's what we started talking about, and I completely forgot. And I was saying about how the world is full of sort of fanatics, whether that is you know, real extremist radicalists versus different religions that are around the world, you know. So that is a real sort of similarity between Warhammer and the real world. So Warhammer, obviously, you've got, let's take the Imperium of Man, and you have those sort of chaos followers, so the gods of chaos, and people follow those gods, and they're sort of fanatical, or seen as fanatical, crazy people. But are the Space Marines the fanatical, crazy people, where they're, you know, celebrating the God Emperor and sort of praising him with your Sisters of Battle, for example, that are so fanatical they might go into battle completely without cause or without a chance, but they think that the Emperor will save them, and they're happy and content to go into battle on the premise that the Emperor will save them. A little bit too much. Got a little bit too much shade actually on one of those horns. Just going to try and take that back a bit. Oh, that's why. There's an overspill of brass. That's why I put a bit of extra Nuln oil just to try and cover up the overspill. There we go. Alright, so we've got face done, we've got horns done, we've got the skull, we've got the shoulder pads, all looking good. Now we probably want to do a bit of dry brushing of some lighter. Oh no, I forgot that little belt bits in there as well. Damn it. Right, so a little belt bit, and then it's on to highlighting. Yeah, so like religion in the real world has been used to sort of control, I guess, people in the world and sort of unify them, right? And that's exactly what happens in Warhammer. People are controlled and unified by a god or various gods or whatever it is, to follow a cause. Absolutely the same as real life. So I'm just painting these belts here. They get a little bit difficult because the print quality is not that good. So you end up with areas that merge. So you get little fine details that merge into one part essentially, and it's not very good. Where was I? Around here. There we go. All right. Okay, so we got the basics of the model really done now. I'm just going to take off the geek glasses for 2 seconds. Oh, make your eyes strain, that's for sure. So we've got the basis of the model done really. So nothing too flash, nothing too crazy. Now we do have all these lines across the back here, so this is a great opportunity for a little bit of dry brushing. So let's get a lighter purple. The only lighter purple I've actually got is this one, so don't know how that will look. And let's go for a lighter green. Maybe we go for super light and super light. Ooh, yeah, let's go for that and that. That's going to be quite a cool look. We need a crappy dry brush. Let's just get that ready. So for this one, just get your paints and shake them up first, and then we're going to need a very light amount on the end of a big bristle brush like this. Excuse the ends, it's a dry brush, that's all I use it for, so all the ends start to split and look crap, but that's absolutely fine for dry brushing. You don't want a fine point really, you want lots of ends. You can use things like makeup brushes for dry brushing. In fact, I actually got some brushes the other day. Where are they? I got some brushes the other day. I got them, there they are. So these are Army Painter ones. These are Army Painter dry brushing, but they look very much like a makeup brush. So, you know, that's probably a cheaper alternative, actually, going to a shop and just buying makeup brushes. That's perfect for dry brushing. You can use smaller brushes like this as well, which I shall use today. So you don't want much on your brush at all. I will dab off the excess into my wet palette so I can reuse the paint. But then you get your tissue paper or whatever you're using and just paint across the tissue paper till you're getting very little off the end of the brush. Once you're getting a little off the end of the brush, you can come back to your model and very lightly start to go across the purple areas, and you will see that it starts to pick up the paint. The little amount of paint that you've got left starts to pick up on all those ridges, and that is exactly what you want. Can you see already? Oh, it's difficult to see in the right light actually, but it is starting to pick up, which is good. So that means we'll have a sort of darker purple in the recesses of the robe, and then that sort of lighter purple across the top of the robe on those highlighted points. There we are. And it should last a good time as well when you're doing your dry brushing. You don't need a lot of the colour. There we go. So that is absolutely more than enough. You can see there actually the sort of difference in the purples and how that is. Now we've got to try and get it across these shoulders without ruining anything. What you could do, I guess, is you could do your dry brushing of one colour and then go on to the next colour before you actually paint anything else. Or you can use a smaller brush for dry brushing for these small areas. I'm just being very lazy and not using a smaller brush, when the reality is I probably should. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that for the purple. That's good. Lovely jubbly. And we'll just rinse off the brush, and then we will go for the green. So I've chosen two really sort of hyper bright colours. Got this as the green to go over the dark green of the sash or whatever you want to call it that's on him. So it will just help stand out more. Again, getting rid of the excess into my wet palette because I don't want to lose too much paint. Dry brush the majority of it off onto a tissue of some sort, and then come onto your model. Oh. Damn it, I've just gone over. That's not good. But I really like the bright green actually. I think that looks really cool. There we go. So the bright green across the dark green there. Same with the purple. Went over there. Look, you can see where I've gone over the purple accidentally. Not good. So we'll have to fix that. But that's okay. But that's the kind of vibes you want to go for. And that is such a quick and easy effect to do on your model. You don't have to use a dry brush like this to do it either. For smaller areas you can use a small brush with the same technique. And to be fair, we're probably going to have to do that anyway, just because this model is slightly difficult to paint in some of the areas with a bigger brush. But that's fine. We will do that. Just cover up that mistake that I made there. Got a little bit of purple that I want to bring through here. So again, just going back and correcting any little details where you've ran over or where you've got gone a little bit crazy on one of the paints. Just bring it back a touch with your original colour. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm just going to take a little bit of this green on my very thin brush. Same principle, get rid of all of the excess on a bit of tissue paper, and very lightly come over the areas where I couldn't get with my other brush, a slightly larger brush. There's a little area right at the back there. Just wanted to get a bit on there. There we go. Looking good. Get a little bit of green in here. Oh, that's a bit too bright, that. See if you don't quite dull it down enough or get rid of the excess enough, it does come across a bit too bright. So just be careful of that. Alright, so that's not too bad. We can even do the same with the wood. If we wanted to go across the wood and do the same to pick up the grain of the wood, we could get perhaps a lighter brown and do exactly the same process. I mean, you don't have to, but you can. Right, okay. So not looking too bad. I like that sort of crazy effect. Hey, Honey Ann, how are you doing? Hope you're well. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, how it's looking so far. And for something that, you know, didn't take very long to paint at all, just having that on the table looks pretty good. It looks half decent, it doesn't look terrible. There's the skull on the bottom, got a bit done on the base there just to make it look like some cobblestones. Yeah, that's alright. I would say that's pretty good. And when you're using shades, it almost works in the opposite fashion to what dry brushing does. So that dry brushing highlight there that we did to get that sort of different purple texture, you're going on the upper edge, so all these ridge lines, to get that light effect. Well, the shade just goes into all the recesses and does the dark effect. So it's the complete opposite to what dry brushing is. Shading does the opposite to that. Hopefully I made myself clear on that one. We will have to fix his horn at some point. There it is there, the bit that we need to stick on somehow, but actually goes that way, I think. Oh, it's so small and fiddly, it's very difficult to stick on. Probably there, like that, I think. Yeah, I don't know. But maybe we'll just leave him broken like that, I don't know. What do we reckon? Do we leave him broken or do we try and glue that back on? So we've got all that done, we've got all that done. Do we want to shade the staff? I think we might go with some... Ooh, I don't know. Do we want to do highlight or do we want to do a shade on the staff? Shade would be certainly quicker. So maybe we try a shade and see what it looks like. So just a little bit of shade across this staff, just to sit in some of the recesses, just to pick out the details of the Mini where it's had its print and it's got all those little lines. You don't want to miss all that out. You want to kind of bring some of that to life. So whether that is through your shade paints, whether that's through your dry brushing to give it a highlight, or whether it's sort of, is it called low light, is it, where you do this, where you're filling in the shade? Filling in the recesses. What's really nice about shading those, you just don't have to be picky about it. You can just go straight over it in a very quick fashion. You don't have to worry, just slop it in and you're all good to go. There we are. Perfect. Alrighty. So there he is. There's our wizard. Our skeleton wizard. Nice and quick. Super fast paint job. And looks pretty decent as well at the same time. And it's not that hard to do to get it to that kind of standard. So there we go. That is actually perfect timing because we're halfway through the show. So we need to go on to our muscle moment, don't we? So let's break there and go to the front page look. Let's just stick our model over there. I will bring some other models up whilst we're about to do our muscle moment. So. As always on Minis and Muscles, we would not be minis as in miniatures and muscles if we didn't talk about fitness for 5 minutes, right? So in this part of the show, we have our muscle moments. This is where the brawn then comes in rather than the brush. So today I wanted to talk about training gadgets and things that can help you achieve your goals. And I wanted to talk very quickly about what I think is possibly the most important training gadget that you could possibly buy, apart from a decent pair of trainers and clothing. The only other thing I would say you could ever really need is a good training watch. There are millions of tools out there, but I think the watch is probably the best tool that you could actually take. So first of all, what do watches do, or what should you look for rather in a watch? Well, there's a variety of different options. There's plenty out there. And I generally say try to find a sports dedicated watch rather than something like an Apple Watch, because an Apple Watch is not really sports dedicated. It's sort of it's a little bit more of a fashion watch. But try and find something that's sports dedicated. Something that's got a heart rate monitor. So first of all, if you're training, you're trying to get fit, you want to know, hi Butterfly Horse, how are you? Welcome to the show. If you're trying to get fit and you're trying to improve your efforts in the gym and get fitter and see results, one way that you would want to track that through your watch would be heart rate. So whatever watch you're looking for, make sure it's got a heart rate monitor so you can track. That enables you to understand your resting heart rate, which will determine if you're getting cardiovascularly more fitter. It will allow you to train in different heart rate zones. So if you want to burn fat, it will tell you where you need to be to burn fat, which is awesome. Or if you need high intensity, again, you can set the zones. You might want, if you're feeling really flush, GPS and tracking. Some watches come with it, some don't, and some it's the more expensive versions that do. But it's a really handy tool to be able to understand how far you're going, right? So your speed and your distance. I used to, many moons ago, when I first started training, you'd have to measure your route by map, and then they brought out these things called foot pods, and it attached to your trainer, and it sort of estimated the distance by your stride, and you had to, I think, to calibrate them, you had to like put the foot pod on and then jog at 50%, like 100 meters or something, and then it would sort of estimate the steps and the rhythm of your feet. Yeah, but now you don't have to worry about that. You can just get GPS because it's super cool, and it's available on most things. Enables you to track distance and speed, which is really good, especially if you're wanting to do a run, for example, and perhaps it's race day and you've been training to your heart rate, or you've been training to a speed that your coach has set. You can train to those specific things. What else does a watch do, and you should look out for features wise, is sleep tracking. Sleep tracking is really good because after a good gym session, your body needs to repair and build and grow. The only way, or not the only way, but the main way it does that is in sleep. And if you don't understand how your body's sleeping, you might be missing out, waking up feeling tired. You might be not fully utilising the body's ability to be able to regenerate itself and grow and get stronger. So look for a sleep tracking monitor. Some of them do have like these workout modes. I'm not 100% convinced on them. Like some will, I think Apple Watch even do a little thing where it like tells you do this exercise followed by that exercise and all the rest of it. I'm not 100% sure on it, but if you're new to fitness, it might be a good thing to do. So it might be the right thing to do by going and grabbing a watch that has some set training programs in it and workout modes, so that it can help you and motivate you to do what you need to do. The other thing with workout modes is it does have some benefits. For example, if you're running versus cycling versus swimming, for example, three very different sports, but by having the workout mode, it will then determine the speeds and work it out more accurately. So it just gives you a bit of degree of accuracy. I feel like today I'm sitting very topsy-turvy and sort of not straight. I feel like my back is all out of line. Maybe I'm sat wonky, I'm not sure, don't know. Some watches, I want to bear with you now, some watches are data overload and it gives you way too much. You don't really need all these crazy things. Heart rate, GPS, sleep tracking, they're the three keys for me. If you need anything else, just be aware that you can sometimes get a bit data overload and it becomes all confusing, and then it ends up with too many buttons and you can't remember where the bloody menu is. I had one watch, and I tell you what, I sent it back after a week of using it because it was just so overcomplicated. It made things very frustrating. What a watch can do for you, though, is some watches, some, not all, but some will give you reminders, and it will help for motivation and accountability. So some watches might give you the ability to tick off things, so to say, yeah, I've done a training session, which helps with motivation, right? Oh, I feel good, I've done this, because it will reward you and say, well done, you've won X medal on your watch, so you can now, step up to the next level, and it will sort of give you rewards to try and motivate you to stay in there. And it also gives you accountability because you can track things. So some watches will allow you to store the data. I don't know, it might be your fastest time running a 10k, and it will allow you to store that, and then you can look to beat that next time. One thing to check out for is battery life and durability. Apple watches are terrible. I'm going to put it out there now. Sorry, Apple. It's a very nice watch in some circumstances, but the battery life is absolutely shocking, and you need to charge it every single day. If you use a GPS function on the Apple Watch, you'll probably need to charge it twice in the day. The battery is terrible, so make sure you look out. Oh, excuse me. I'm boring myself. Make sure you look out for battery life. And what really matters at the end of the day with your watch, personally, I think, is absolutely nothing, actually. You can go into the gym perfectly fine without a watch, but if you can track your heart rate, your speed and distance, and your sleep, that will enable you just to push a little bit further and to reach a little bit more excellence. That's all. All right, that's a muscle moment for today. Let's swap back to the view. There we go. So we just finished this little fella. There he is. We're just doing some highlights on him. Put some shade on there. There's our little filthy skeleton sorcerer with his purple and green cape. I think it looks quite cool, actually. I quite like him. And his little skull strapped to the end of his stick. I quite like that. I think he's pretty cool. Our little D&D character. So thinking of D&D characters, I thought let's bring in some new models to paint. What about this little fella? What about this little dog? We could paint this little dog. So we've got him to paint. There's a little model. We've got this little dwarf. He's quite a crazy chap. So he looks quite cool. We've got a very small goblin with his little bomb there. So a little goblin. He's got a sort of top hat on and his big coatlet. So a little sneaky goblin. I think he's quite smart. And we've got the elf. There he is. So like an elf ranger sort of bent down, holding his hand out. I don't know what he's holding his hand out for, but there's his bow on his back and his quiver. So we've got those 4 models. They're the next 4 that I was going to suggest for us to paint. So let's just put them all into frame so you can see them all next to each other. We've got the dog. We've got our little goblin underneath. We've got the archer, the ranger, and we've got the dwarf. Okay, so I'm going to make a poll right now. So let's start a poll. What next? Oh, I can't spell. NEXT question mark. So we've got the no, he's a goblin actually. Goblin. We've got the elf. We've got the dog. And we've got the dwarf. There you go. So, take your pick. There's your poll. Start bashing away on the keyboard. Tell me what you want. And whilst we take a look at that poll, I'm just going to scroll back up here to my main chat. Remember, the main chat tonight is the Warhammer 40,000 Grimdark universe and relating that to reality and how the things two combine. So one thing I was thinking about is propaganda and control. I've been watching a lot about the current political state of the UK at the moment. And for those that live in the UK, you can laugh along with me. And I was thinking about some sort of propaganda and control. Now, the Warhammer world does exactly that. The Warhammer world is propaganda, propaganda, propaganda all the time. So it's a proper propaganda. It's a real crazy world to live in there. And it's like, it's actually overt propaganda. Whereas I'd say modern day life is more like covert propaganda, where people are sort of a bit more silent, a bit more quiet about how they do it, or governments are more quiet about how they do it. Whereas the Warhammer world, they're overt propaganda. Everything is out there. It's, you know, very much driven for the Emperor type thing. So it's sort of the Imperium censors everything, and if they don't want you to watch it, it's a bit like North Korea, right? Or I don't know, China, that doesn't let in certain social media things, or other countries that restrict the flow of information. I mean, the UK does that as well. You know, let's take the UK's current political situation, restricting people talking about stuff on Facebook or Instagram. Whether it's right or wrong what they're talking about, surely free speech shouldn't be dictated, right? But the world does it. But the Warhammer world does it too on an extreme level. So everything, like, as I was going through these points and writing them, it was like everything in the real world is just in Warhammer but extreme. Like the soldiers, let's take Space Marines, right? They're just special forces guys to the extreme, right? The armor that they wear is to the extreme. The guns is to the extreme. Same as everything. So it's quite funny. So yeah, it does kind of echo, the Warhammer world does echo the real world. What it doesn't echo, though, is the endless war, right? In Warhammer, there's an endless war going on. It's like been going on for millennia, where everywhere is at war constantly, and it's just one big fight. And you wake up every day to join the fight and to push forward in the fight. Yes, we've had World War One, World War Two, which were very long-term fights over a few years. But actually, it's not quite as constant as what the world of Warhammer is. So that is actually a disparity between the two. How are we doing on our poll? Let's have a look. Oh, we've got a tie at the moment between dog and dwarf. Ooh. Okay, so we need at least one more vote to split the hairs. But yes, so we've got this little goblin guy here that we could paint next with his little cherry bomb or whatever that is he's got. A little glass vial of something. Quite like him though, he's quite a cool character. He's got a monocle as well. We got the dog. We got like a dog in some sort of studded armour to protect him. So he's quite cool looking. I don't know what type of dog he is. It's like a bulldog, but not a bulldog, because bulldogs don't stand up as tall as that, do they? Anyone know what kind of dog that is? Drop it in the chat. We've got the elf, who is sort of on his knees. I don't know what he's looking at. Whether the model should have had something on his hand. Maybe we're going to have to put something on his hand to make him look at it. Maybe that's what we're going to have to do. But we've got him. I just noticed that. You can see that little bit there. Bit of a 3D print that's not been caught. Let's take that off. There we go. That's better. So we've got that guy. He's quite cool though. Nice detailing on his robe. And then we've got this guy. The dwarf. The sort of crazy sort of... He looks like a sort of inventor type dwarf. With these like little scales on his back. So he looks quite cool. With a little spear gun. He's quite smart. So there are models that we've got. We need one more vote just to split the hairs. Oh no, will we get it? We might. I might have to split the hairs myself. So we've got dog and dwarf. Okay. Oof. Dog or dwarf. Dog or dwarf. We haven't done a dog on the channel, so let's do dog. There you go. Let's end the poll. Let's do the dog. We'll do the dwarf next, maybe. Alrighty. Look at that little dog. He's quite cool, isn't he? What type of dog is he? I don't know. But anyway, before I witter on, let's get some black out. Because first of all, the first thing we need to do is actually put some undercoat on him, right? So we can't just paint straight over the top. So we're just going to put some undercoat on him. Cover in black. There we go. Lovely jubbly. Yeah, we've never done a dog on the channel before, so I think that's quite cool. We've never done... yeah, we have done animals, actually. Mythical animals, but we've never done a real animal, so... He's our first real animal on the channel. There we go. Quite difficult there to actually find a place to hold him to be able to paint all the areas onto him, all the undercoat onto him. God, you know it's a Friday and you're late when you start mixing your words up. There we go. What I do have off to my side is my trusty heat gun, just to speed up the process a bit. This paint dries really fast anyway, but just to speed it up so we can paint faster. And you can do this at home, by the way, if you wanted to. You can use a heat gun just to speed up the paint drying process. Just be very careful not to put too much heat into it, because it will crack it all and it will go all funky. So just be aware of that. Don't go too crazy with the heat gun, alright? If you're going to use it sparingly. Use it gently. But you can use them, so... Does anyone know what this dog is, by the way? I have no clue what this dog is. Breed, that is. There we go. Stick him there. It's a bit of a quiet Friday, guys. A bit of a quiet one. Last week was quite busy. We seem to have that here on the channel. We have a week of it being really busy and then a week of it being real quiet. So that's generally how it goes here on Minis-N-Muscles. We did get an extra subscriber last week, so that was nice. Always good to get extra subscribers. That's what we like. Okay. Let's just get the heat gun out again. Drying him off. Remember, lowest setting on your heat gun if you're going to use a heat gun to dry your models. Lowest setting, and just be very sparing with the heat. Don't apply it on the same point too long. You'll end up melting your model. Okay. Alright, so he's done. So we've got a couple of little elements to paint on this guy. We've got like I imagine this is like a cloth type, tabard type thing that goes underneath his armour. Armour being, I reckon, silver or goldy kind of coloured. The tabard we could do, actually we could probably do multicoloured on that actually. We could do like a checkered effect. Maybe do like red and white or something. Yeah, let's do red and white. Let's start with that, shall we? That would be quite nice. In fact, let's start with a... Should we start with the colour of the dog itself and then do the armour? Yeah, I think so. Let's do that. So I've got this sort of nice brown. It looks like a doggy kind of brown. I don't know if this dog breed, by the way, comes in brown. But we'll paint him brown anyway. Because it looks about right. But if I'm painting him completely the wrong colour, guys, then please do say if this dog doesn't even, I say come in a brown colour, it's not like you buy it out of the box, is it? But you know what I mean. There you go. So our general chat topic today is the Warhammer 40,000 Grimdark universe versus reality. And we've been sort of talking about different things and comparing what the real world is like to the Warhammer world. And I sort of picked out a couple of things, and we spoke about... firstly, we spoke about sort of the Imperium of Man versus real man empires. So, you know, like the Roman Empire, for example, and how it took over and sort of expanded throughout the world. You could say the same about the English Empire, perhaps, or the Ottoman Empire, all these different empires that have existed in the world, in our world. And then you've got, in the Warhammer world, how, you know, the world, the sort of, oh gosh, what's it bloody called? The Imperium of Man, that's what I was looking for. How the Imperium of Man is sort of trying to take over the world. And it appears that they're actually the aggressors when you sort of look at it. And everyone else is defending their patch, but then it gets to the point where they start attacking too. I don't know. But you've got the similarity there. We spoke about the sort of religious side of the Warhammer world. So they've got the sort of religious and the fanatical sort of side of things, a bit like the real world, how you get religions and you get the sort of fanatics as well that sort of say they're sort of on a religion, but they're sort of masking behind a religion, perhaps, in a fanatical manner. So that's very similar. So two similars that we had. Then we spoke about propaganda and control, how the real world does use propaganda and control, and so does the Warhammer world, but the Warhammer world does it to the extreme. Then we spoke about endless war, so an actual sort of polar opposite almost, where yes, we have war in the world, that we live in, but it's not an endless war. It's not been going on for the conception of life, whereas the war in Warhammer has been going on for millennia. So it's a sort of a non-stop thing, a daily occurrence, and people don't know any different. So that's not how we live, even though things like World War One, World War Two were very bad. Actually, in comparison, they were not bad. Does that make sense? I'm not dismissing the severity of World War One or World War Two, so please don't hate on me. I'm just doing it as a comparison to the Warhammer world. So something that is slightly different there. Warhammer world has got it slightly harder, I think, than us, living under those sort of warlike conditions 24/7. What about sort of in Warhammer you get the Xenos race, which is the alien race, and you get, you know, what I wanted to relate here is actually how in Warhammer they're called Xenos, and that is aliens, whereas we just call them aliens full stop, and we talk about them all the time. We've never met them, of course, but there's always the conspiracy and the theory that the aliens exist in the real world. In fact, have any of you seen that, here's a side geeky topic, the 3-Eye Atlas meteor that's, well, meteor, not meteor, that's something, object that's coming towards Earth and coming towards the planets in our solar system? Anybody seen that? That looks pretty freaky, to be honest. Oh yeah, if you've not seen it, look it up. 3-Eye Atlas. So it's a huge object that's coming into or is in our solar system, our universe, and it has taken a very strange trajectory that's not normal of comets and things like that. It's got weird gases coming off of it, and it's just very unusual, to say the least. And there's a sort of big conspiracy that it is an alien craft coming to the world. Now that would be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it, if it was? I mean, crikey, could you imagine? Woo-wee! That would be mental. Don't know, maybe we'll end up with a situation like the Warhammer world where we're at an endless war scenario. If that was aliens, of course. It might not be. But it does look very suspicious when you get all that evidence together. Yeah, sorry, I went off on a endless tangent there. But the topic was about, you know, how the Warhammer world has got the Xenos, which is the term for alien, and others that exist in their world. We don't really have that. I mean, there's always been the talk about aliens in our universe, in our world, but nobody's ever... We've not got anything to say something 100% exists. We haven't had, you know, like a message from the aliens to say, hey Steve, we're aliens and we're coming to take over your planet, or we're friendly, or we're good, or whatever. We haven't really had that. So, you know, could they be out there? Yeah, quite possibly. But we do not know whether they are truly existing or not. Whereas in the Warhammer world, crikey, you've got gajillions of aliens out there. You've got orcs, you've got tyrannids, you know, you've got gene stealers. You've got plenty of weird alien races in the Warhammer world, which makes it quite interesting. I guess quite scary at the same time as well, though. There we are. So we've got this little fella. Colour and noses on dogs. Great question. Maybe I'll come to the face last. It has got a little tongue though, so might as well do that. Yeah, I'm not impressed with this brush. at all. It's pretty rubbish. There he goes, his little tongue. They have black noses, don't they, dogs? What do they have pink noses? Black noses, I think. I think. There we go. There's his little nose done. Yeah, I'm just not sure if these brushes are particularly well done. Alright, there we go. There's the whites of his eyes anyway. Those are done. I'll have to use my geek glasses to get the black point on. We'll come back to that whilst all that dries. What about silver or gold? So maybe silver for this part, gold for the top bit. Yeah, I think so. That'll look quite cool. The real world versus the Warhammer world. So some of the things we've been talking about. The next topic, though, would be technology and the worship of technology. So there is a little bit of that in this world. Not really, not quite like... oh, bugger. Fudge. Just got bloody silver all over the dog. Damn it. I don't know how that happened. Oh, that's not good. Bear with me whilst we... There you go. Hobby horror moment. When you get paint all over the model you're painting and it's the wrong colour. That's not good. Oh, he's going to have to be repainted, I'm afraid. Gosh darn it. So we were saying about technology worship. We do have a bit of that in the real world. So there are plenty of people out there that, I wouldn't say worship technology in a religious manner, but they certainly would not live without it, and they follow every single thing that happens in technology to, you know, keep up with the next best thing and make sure they've got this and that and all the rest of it. So, you know, whereas the Warhammer world, where in the real world you've got, you know, people that, for example, buy the next best iPhone and they're in the queue for the next iPhone because it's the next best thing, and you know they couldn't possibly be without it. Or they buy a Tesla car because that's the trend of owning a Tesla because they're electric and electric is the best thing ever. So you get a lot of people like that in this world. Whereas, let's face it, the Warhammer world is a little bit more fanatical about technology than here. Not perhaps all of the factions or races within the Warhammer world, but there is one in particular, the Adeptus Mechanicus, that are complete tech heads, and the world that revolves around technology for them. So it's all about technology for those guys, to the point where that is what they worship in terms of their religion. They worship the technology. So, you know, they have holy relics and all the rest of it that they believe in. They believe that the spirit of the machine will guide them to success. So they sort of really do take that fanatical approach to technology. Whereas, yeah, okay, so someone might not be able to do without an iPhone, but they don't quite. Well, I don't think people. Do people worship Apple? Surely not. Maybe there are weird people. There are so many weird people in this world. Maybe there are people that worship Apple. God knows. But not. I don't think quite as crazy as what the Adeptus Mechanicus worship. Worship technology in the same way as we do here. So I think we, on that scale, Warhammer World pips us for sure. I don't think we're quite as nuts as that. Well, not far off it though, to be honest. Do you know, I said it once before and I'll say it again. Painting D&D models is always so much easier. Like so much easier. They're so fast to paint and so easy. I don't know why that is. I don't know, it's just because there's less of the model, or the detail is not quite the same, or you know, or the fact that you don't have to build it helps, because it's sort of part of the frustration perhaps on some people's minds, some, not all, might be that they have to build the model in Warhammer first. They don't just pop it out of the box and paint it, they have to build it. So you know, you get a sprue with all the parts on and you have to cut all the parts off and then glue them all together, and you know, then wait for it to dry. Whereas D&D models, you don't really have that. It's pretty much out of the box, paint it, which is really handy, especially if you're racing to paint stuff very quickly for a campaign or for a special evening or whatever. You can get that done super fast, which is always nice. This guy, we might finish him. It's not a huge amount to paint on him, so we could get him done. I thought I'd give him the gold trim at the top here. It just makes him look a little bit more regal, doesn't it? Like this dog is owned by like a real poignant adventurer in the Dungeons and Dragons world. Owns this little dog, and this is his pet that follows him around everywhere, you know. That's the kind of story I'm going with. Don't break my story, alright? There we go. Alright. Oh, there we go. Oh, I forgot to paint his chest in there. What an idiot. What an idiot! Don't worry that I'm going over the leather sort of collar above. I'm not too fussed about that because we've got to paint that area anyway, so if we make the slight mistake of going over, then it's not too much of an issue. We shan't cry about it, people. We shall just bloody well carry on. There we go. There's a little dog. Oh. Oh, sorry, he's completely out of shot. There. Arestus, how you doing? This is how's a painting. Praise the Omnisire. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they do get a little bit fanatical. Building models is actually pretty fun. Yeah, so a lot of people do find the building of models real fun. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. I know people that hate the building part, that absolutely resent the building part and couldn't think of anything worse to do. So, you know, it's a mixed bag, right? But on our topics, just in case you've missed it, arrest us today. We're talking about the Warhammer 40,000 Grimdark universe versus reality and how the two differ. And the last one we were talking about was sort of technology worship, hence your comment, praise the Omnissiah, right? So the next one that we're going to talk about is the cost of survival. And what I mean by that is how humanity in Warhammer 40,000 sacrifice absolutely everything. The freedom, morality, and even knowledge just to survive. The whole purpose of people, of mankind in Warhammer 40,000 is to survive. Now, we are a complete polar opposite to that here in our world. Yes, there are places in the world that operate in a similar manner. Like I've said, they're not at 24-hour war for their entirety. There are some places that have had heavy wars over a few years, but nothing that's lasted the same length of time and period as the wars in Warhammer. And people as well in this world generally don't sacrifice absolutely everything to survive. I mean, nowadays, in the day and age that we live in, people very rarely sacrifice anything. And I think that's one of the problems, actually, that people don't want to sacrifice things to get something else. People just want, and they want what they've got, and they don't want to get rid of that, and they want even more, and and it sort of ends in this really weird kind of odd sort of cycle. Whereas the Warhammer world, people will sacrifice absolutely everything. You wake up, you breathe, you live for the war, and to survive. And if you don't, you will die. So it's that is a stark difference to the real world. And I mean, I'll be happily corrected if I'm wrong, but I do not think anyone in this world lives like that. There will be moments in people's lives where they live like that, no doubt. The war in Ukraine, for example, good war case there. There are moments there where people are living to survive every single day, and they're fighting for survival. However, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but that hasn't been going on for millennia. Like it has in a comparison to Warhammer. By the way, I'm not saying that it's not a serious situation out there, because it very much is. But in a sort of dry comparison between the Warhammer world and our world, actually we have it a little bit easier, I think. I really don't like these new paintbrushes. They're not very nice at all. Just painting the straps on our dog at the moment. Just noticed we need to redo that centre of the straps there. That needs to go in the dog's skin colour. So we'll fill that in a sec. This is such an easy model to paint. One of the great things about painting is the sort of escapism and the relaxation of the hobby itself. So the painting models like this is absolutely awesome. The simplicity of it is second to none. You cannot beat the simplicity of painting. I mean, Arestus is saying there that building models is something he really loves. And absolutely, I agree. It's a great thing to do. The painting is far more relaxing. Oh, there we go. Let's just... get the paint in there for the centre. We'll need a silver probably, or maybe we could do the ring in like a brass colour. So on the underside here we've got this sort of ring that joins the 4 leather straps of his harness. There we go. Lovely jubbly. We need to tidy that up because that's not particularly neat. But we shall do that shortly. Probably should have done this metal ring first actually, and then put the straps over the top, but that's fine. That's fine, we can do it any way we bloody want, can't we? There we are. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Just need to repair a little bit of the skin there. There we go, that side and this side. There we go. So he's got the little ring there in the centre holding those little leather straps together. Got the collar to do. Do we give him a bright coloured collar or do we give him a normal collar? I don't know. Let's come and think about that in a minute. I am going to mix up some white though because I wanted to do like a white and red effect on his back here because this little sort of blanket or whatever you call it that's underneath his armour is quite cool, so I wanted to take advantage of that. And because it's quite defined on the model, it means that actually we can take advantage of the definition on the model and use that to separate some of the colours. So for example, if we just paint all this white to begin with, and it has got a border edge, so might tie that in and put that black or something just to make it stand out. There we go. There we are. Righty. So there's the white. Yeah, do we want a black edge on that? Does that look alright? I don't know about a black edge. I'm not sure. I think a black edge actually might suck. Might have to change that for something else. Maybe a gold. Should we try the gold? Yeah, why not? Arrested saying, I've actually started printing some Trench Crusade models. Oh, wow. Okay, so Colour Me Pete's done a load of Trench Crusade models. So he's really into that. I haven't played it yet, but I am considering it. Because it is meant to be pretty awesome. And I do happen to know one of the editors of the book on Trench Crusade. It does look like a very cool game, Arrestus. So, yeah, you should definitely paint those up. When I was painting some orcs a little while back, Colour Me Pete was doing his Trench Crusade models. And A, I thought they were quite cheap for what they were. And B, they just looked very, very cool. So I can absolutely recommend them as models. They didn't look too hard to assemble either. Correct me if I'm wrong, Arrestus, but they didn't look too difficult. I'm hoping I'm right there, but they didn't look like they were super hard to make. Bugger. Just overran the edge there, unfortunately. I was thinking to myself, should I put my geek glasses on so I don't make a mistake there? Didn't put them on and made a mistake. Honestly, guys, geek glasses for the win every time. They're so bloody good. Right, okay. So it's going to be the difficult part now. Well, wow. Oh, as in, oh, wow, the editor, yeah, she's very cool. She's got her own YouTube channel as well. So YouTube is called Mira Manga. So if you go and search up Mira Manga, she talks about a load of Warhammer stuff, mainly around the books and the content and the lore. So she's very cool at that. And she's one of the editors. Well, depends on the warband. Ah, okay. So depends on the warband, depends on the complexity. All right, makes sense. That makes sense, dude. Alright, so we've got our little dog. It's only his collar to do. I am going to do the checks on his back, but I think we're going to run out of time tonight to do that. Collar wise, I think we will go with this sort of another shade of brown. Always good in your repertoire of colours to have multiple of brown, multiple of green. You will be surprised how often it comes up when you're painting a model and you need a slight different variant shade so the model doesn't all look the same. So always stock up on browns and greens. I think they're some of the best colours to keep variants of. I mean, I do have variants of reds, I do have variants of blues, yellows even. Maybe it's just primary colours as a whole, actually. There we go. That's his collar done. He's getting there, isn't he? He's not far off being finished. So I'll continue to paint whilst we do our hobby horror moment, just before we run out of time. So the hobby horror moment tonight was going to be... when is enough enough? And what do I mean by that? I'm going to sit my geek glasses on whilst we're here. Well, actually, when is enough enough? I'm talking about painting models. Of course I'm talking about painting models. Now, it's really easy to buy. It's like the thrill, right? When you're into models and you're building out your armies and all the rest of it, it's so engaging and so fun just to collect the bloody things, let alone build them, let alone paint them. It's just fun to own the models, to get them and think, oh, I've got that, that's so cool. However, it does quickly descend into a painter's nightmare that you will have to get through of your pile of shame. And nobody wants a pile of shame. Trust me. I have a pile of shame way too big, way too embarrassing, and it's not a great feeling, because actually once you get a big pile of shame, you start to then get frustrated with the amount you've got to paint, and it puts you off painting, weirdly. By the way, in case one of you wonders what I'm doing, I'm not just scraping off the paint for the fun of it. There was a brush hair that was stuck in the paint and I didn't want to paint over it. But yeah, if you own so many models, the problem is that you don't know where to start and you become overwhelmed with it. Or at least I certainly do. So yes, it's a thrill of collecting, but you've got to be ever so careful not to get too many, so you don't you're not then put off by painting full stop, because that's not what you want. You want to be able to enjoy the hobby. The hobby of painting and the gift of painting is so fun. You want to be able to enjoy it when you can, right? So be careful is what I'm saying. Now, I do get excited and I do sometimes go out and buy loads of models, and I end up with a huge back pile and grey pile of shame that's not painted, not built, not ready, but I own them. And it does become then very hard to get into the model, especially if you're having a bad day or an off day. If you're having a good day, generally it doesn't really affect you, but if you're having a bad day, actually it becomes so I've found it becomes so sort of embarrassing or putting off. It sort of puts you off actually painting and getting out there and doing what you want to do and what you love. So be careful of that addiction to painting. Now here's my example of what I did. So I was collecting my ultramarines, as you know, and just getting another stray hair off that brush. And as I was collecting them, I was like, right, okay, I need this one, right, I need that one, okay, I need this one. And I was going through a phase of sort of buying and getting all the models collected and ready. Now, I got way too crazy with it, and I ended up buying because I wasn't paying attention. I was just sucked into the world of buy. And I ended up buying the same model twice. And I didn't just do this once, I did this 3 times. So I bought the same model 3 times. Sorry, I'll rephrase that because it's not quite right what I'm saying. I bought the same model twice, and I did that with 2 other models. I bought the same model twice. Rather embarrassing, rather silly, and I had to then obviously take them back and get refunds and all the rest of it because I didn't know what I was doing. I got sucked into just buying stuff, which is fun, but you know, you've got to be ever so careful. So, by the way, this is the first attempt at doing these little diamond squares on his back. Thought it'd be a fun pattern to do, but actually it's very difficult. This brush is doing my head in. Don't like it whatsoever. I'm actually gonna throw that down and I'm gonna grab one from over here. What have I got here? Let's try this one. This one seems a bit better. But this is actually an old brush anyway, so... not helpful. Yeah, so I ended up buying multiple of the same item, which was not only hurt my wallet, but hurt my pride and made me realise what a fool I am. So don't get stuck in the buying cycle. Plan what you need meticulously so you don't end up in the same situation as me. I mean, often that, you know, you want to buy because it's almost like a fear of missing out. So you'll either buy the same thing like I did, or perhaps you'll buy something that you don't really intend to paint or you don't really intend to collect, but you buy it anyway because you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. And you think, oh, it's just a cool model, so I'll probably buy that because I'll paint it, when you know deep down you never will. So it's another situation that you can get stuck into, that sort of fear of missing out. And that is very possible. Well, at least this brush is actually painting a bit better than the other one for finer detail. The other one was just didn't seem to go, the tip of the brush didn't really go into a point, which makes it very hard to paint. Whereas this one is a bit better. Not perfect because it's an old brush, but a lot better. So try to remember what you're going out to buy, what you're collecting. Make lists, keep it on your phone, and don't get suckered into the fear of missing out or caught up in the wave of excitement of collecting a new model or a new group of models or whatever it is you're getting, right? Just take it steady. So that was my that was my hobby horror moment, where I completely cocked up buying too many models. I'm going to go back as well and change. Oh, sorry, I'm just painting out of shot there. I always miss the vote. This is much easier to keep the grey in check if you don't actually play the games. Yeah, that's true, JPC. That's true, bro. But is it though, actually? Because I didn't always play the games, but I still wanted all the models. And actually, because I just painted and I didn't collect certain armies, I think that made me worse, because I could just buy any model that I saw and thought, oh, that looks cool, I'll buy that. Oh, that looks cool, I'll buy that. So actually, I'm not sure, JPC, if not playing the game helps. I think not playing the game could be a hindrance. Do you see what I'm saying there? Don't worry with these checks that I'm painting on right now. We will come back and tidy them up. I'm kind of trying to speed paint these checks right now. So they're not particularly perfect, but they don't look too bad. So there is our little dog so far. He's not far from complete, to be fair. And he's looking pretty cool, but we will put him on a base next week and we will tidy him up and we will make him look even more awesome. But he looks pretty cool as he is. So let's take off the geek glasses. Let's change over to our front view. Woo! Well, another Friday done. That is episode 55. We've been doing 55 of these live streams since we started. Pretty crazy, right? That's quite a lot of live streams. To be fair, yeah, I didn't think I'd last this long, if I'm honest. Not because I'd get bored of it, but I just didn't think people would turn up ever and watch. So, yeah, it's good that you guys do turn up and watch. So that is the end of another show. Today we spoke about the Warhammer world versus reality, and we sort of spoke about a couple of different concepts about comparing real world to Warhammer 40,000 world. We spoke about in our muscle moment about gadgets to use to improve our fitness, mainly centered around watches and what to look out for a good training watch. And then lastly we spoke about the hobby horror, and that is me purchasing way too many models and not realizing what I already had and buying double ups of 3 different units. That was not good. So always remember when enough is enough. But apart from that, I've had a wonderful evening with you guys and girls. I'm absolutely thrilled that you all joined us. Thank you for commenting and chatting and having a good old time. Next week, we will finish off our little dog. So here he is right here. So there's his little checkered back look. So it looks quite smart. There's his collar. We need to do his eyes because he's just got white eyes right now like a ghost dog. And we need to sort of tidy him up and we need to base him. So we'll find a little base and we'll get him stuck on there. Apart from that, thank you one, thank you all. Please like, comment, share. Please make sure you're subscribed. Turn on your notifications. All that really does help the channel. We did get another subscriber last week. Come on. So let's keep on. If we get one every week, that would be lovely. But apart from that, make sure you have a wonderful geeky weekend. Do not stress. Do not worry. Do not put yourself through any mental torture. Go and enjoy the hobbies that make you you. Get out into the real world and do some exercise. Get those endorphins running through the body and go geek it up with your buddies. Until next week, 7 p.m. here on YouTube every Friday. I will see you in a few days' time. Take it easy one, take it easy all. Speak to you soon.
Minis-N-Muscles, we're heroes, right? The dying world's still on its skies. Rushing air, where power we fight. Strength that breaks you, night in the night. Where the brawn meets the brawn. Just story stone. In this love imagination mode. With every stroke, adventures unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, heart and soul. Guidance in hand and worlds to explore. Roll the future, hear the dice roar. Gaming realms of muscles drawn. Together in this place where we belong. Doting spells, casting dreams until the dawn. Leveling up and the world to follow. With painted heroes shining bright. Venturing onward in the endless night. Where the brawn meets the brawn. The story's told in the storm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the vengeance unfold. Minis-N-Muscles, our soul. Where the brawn meets the brawn. Just stories told in the storm of imagination mode. With every stroke, the fate to light.